So look, I warned you before the election that one of the strategies of Kamala that I didn't like was the Liz Cheney strategy. Now, to be fair, there's other areas where I thought, she ran a decent campaign. Talking about that $6,000 child tax credit was great. Talking about banning price gouging for groceries was great. Picking Tim Walz was great. So, credit where it's due on the areas where it's due. But, my biggest red flag and warning for everybody was this Liz Cheney strategy is just bad. You can't, on the one hand, say Republicans are weird and they're a threat to democracy and they're fascist. Trump, in particular, is a fascist. You can't say that and then turn around and be like, and here's this Republican I'm campaigning with, and oh yeah, by the way, she's from the legacy of the George W. Bush administration, which, look, guys, I don't know how to impress upon the people who weren't around at the time just how bad it was. George W. Bush was Trump before Trump. That maybe helps put it into perspective. Multiple illegal wars, torture, crashing the economy, cutting taxes for the rich and deregulating Wall Street, like everything bad imaginable happened during the George W. Bush years, right? And Dick Cheney was even worse than George W. Bush because he was the intellect behind what they were doing. He was the ideologically driven one. So I don't like Liz Cheney. She voted 93% of the time with Trump. If you're against Trump, you have to be against Liz Cheney because she agrees with him 9 out of 10 times, right? So I was warning. I said this isn't a good idea. Dick Cheney had a 13% approval rating when he left office. Liz Cheney has the same ideology as Dick. You don't want Kamala snuggling up to somebody like that because the message that sends is my values align with her. At least to some extent, right? My values align with her. Well, it's kind of hard to have in your camp both Bernie Sanders and Liz Cheney when they don't agree on anything. And across the board, Bernie is right and Liz is wrong. Okay. Well, we just got some new polling from Data for Progress. Look at this. The Cheney endorsement made nearly 3 in 10 independent Pennsylvania voters less enthusiastic about Harris's campaign. So what's interesting is that even among Democrats, only 53% of Democratic voters said the Liz Cheney thing made them more enthusiastic, which means about half of Democrats have their head screwed on properly, and they're like, why are you parading around with Liz Cheney, right? So overall, only 29% of Pennsylvania voters were more enthusiastic because of the Liz Cheney thing, and only 21% of independents were more enthusiastic. In other words, 50% of independents said, 50% said it had no impact, and 30% said less enthusiastic, or 28% to be exact. So in other words, look, I mean, the way to sum this up is it didn't work. And in Michigan, the impact was even more notable. The people did not like the Liz Cheney strategy. The only fact you really need to know is in the 2020 election, Trump won 94% of Republicans. In 2024, Trump won 94% of Republicans. So in other words, there wasn't this migration of like, Kamala won 12% of Republican voters when it was only 6% for Biden. They were hoping that would happen. It didn't happen. It didn't happen. So the Liz Cheney strategy just didn't work. Now, that's my criticism. One of my main criticisms of Kamala. Of course, Biden's had some rough foreign policy stuff, arming and funding Netanyahu as he commits a genocide. Really horrific stuff. A lot of that was pinned on Kamala because she didn't distance herself from Biden on that front at all. But in step Fox News, right? Because now this is part of the myth-making process around Trump that drives me absolutely crazy. Okay? So let's watch and then I'll break it down for you.
Cheney is repellent.
Yes.
What do you think?
That seemed to flow through that one.
It seemed to flow through that.
Well, it's incredible when you stop and think about what happened, what we saw in this last election, where you took the most, and Trump started it in 2016, where he moved the Republican Party away from the war machine and away from, and it's not an exaggeration to say that the war in Ukraine would not have happened if Donald Trump had still been in office.
Agree with that.
I don't think that the attack on Israel would have happened if Donald Trump had still been in office.
Whatever Trump says, they just run with it as if it's factual. Yeah, Ukraine wouldn't have happened and October 7th wouldn't have happened if Trump was in there. Why? Because he said it? So you just regurgitate it as if it's true? What are we doing here? And he said, In 2016, Trump moved the Republican Party away from the war machine. That is a complete and utter myth. That is just factually false. He had John Bolton and Mike Pompeo and Gina Haspel running his foreign policy. Those are Bush-era neocons, and they governed in a neocon way. All right, we're not done.
Iran would still be struggling to stay afloat if Donald Trump had remained in office. But
he ripped up the Iranian agreement, which was working. He made it worse. He made it more likely we're going to war with Iran. He got us closer to war with Iran.
I got lied to even during this campaign office, but Joe Biden changed all of these policies, embraced Iran, and basically lit the fuse on all of these catastrophes around the world. And so it's really fascinating to sit back and watch Kamala Harris go out and take the most unpopular part of the Republican Party, embrace Liz Cheney, and run around the country and then act like that's going to be the backbone of her campaign, as opposed to the economy, which is usually where Democrats, rightly or wrongly, do better.
But she couldn't talk about the economy, because then it had to be about record. She couldn't talk about record. So anybody she brought up on stage, it could have been Liz Cheney, any of the celebrities, when they came on stage, it was fear-mongering. It wasn't substance.
Yeah,
it wasn't
but Brian,
ideas.
any celebrity would have been better than bringing in Lynn Cheney. I mean, you talked earlier, Charlie, about how Donald Trump remade the party, and I remember I was one of those Republicans who, back in the day, believed the Bushes, believed all the rationale and then there were weapons of mass. I believed all their stuff, and when I found out they lied to me, it had a fundamental impact on my trust in government and my trust in these people, these neocons. And so when Donald Trump came along and said, stupid wars, no more stupid wars, it really spoke to me. It was really what drew me into everything else that he was talking about. And that transformed the party. And so it's just odd to me that she did bring specifically that person. There's a lot of likable figures in the Republican Party who have, maybe don't like Donald Trump, and she could have brought them along for the ride. But she chose this woman who represents this war machine that so many independents and Republicans were rejecting.
I'm going to become the Joker, y'all. I'm going to become the Joker. They're talking as if Trump is not today arguing for war with Iran, as if he didn't release a video recently talking about in detail how he's going to declare war on Mexico. They're pretending like Trump is against the war machine. By the way, Fox News was the propaganda factory during the Bush administration. It was wall to wall. If you're against the Iraq war, you're unpatriotic. You hate this country. You must be on the side of Osama bin Laden and on the side of the terrorists. You must not support our troops. You must hate our troops. It was wall-to-wall propaganda. And every single Republican voice, if Bush said something, if Cheney said something, total agreement. Then Trump comes around and she pretends like he got us away from these neocons and all this war. I just told you, he appointed neocons. He did a neocon foreign policy. Why are they pretending like he was anti-war in his first term, and why are they pretending like he's going to be anti-war in his second term when he's saying Netanyahu finished the job, which means finish the ethnic cleansing and the genocide, and he'll support it every single step of the way. He's letting them annex all of the West Bank. He's talking about war with Mexico, and he told Israel, go ahead and attack Iran's nuclear facilities and start another giant war. What the fuck are they talking about? What are they talking about? Look, they are correct that, hey, it was weird that Kamala decided to parade around with Liz Cheney, who represents warmongering and the worst of the Republicans. They are right about that, but they are also currently supporting a warmonger. Trump is a warmonger. He was in 2016, he is now, and they're pretending like he's not. And again, at the time, everybody was on this network, all these people were cheerleading for war and mocking and scolding the people who were correct, saying this isn't the right thing to do. Oh my God, let's see if there's any more. I'm gonna lose it, man. Holy shit.
Like the vast majority of American voters, you're a good person. And so you believed them when they told you.
Yeah, I don't believe anything they say anymore.
Yeah, and then when you realized that they lied to you, they lost all credibility, and you changed your mind.
Yeah.
Trump lies to you guys all the fucking time. All the fucking time. And you don't care. You still support him. So what is it that Bush's lies are irredeemable and irreconcilable, but Trump's lies are hunky-dory, and I'm still going to ride his nuts on a daily basis? Oh, my God. Holy shit.
And I think that we saw that across the board. And I think, quite frankly, as a result of this past election, we're probably going to see even more of it as good Democrat voters look at this and say, wow, I got lied to even during this campaign.
Yeah. And it exposed the uni party, right? You saw Democrats and this particular wing of the Republican Party.
The uniparty. The Fox News is fully embracing Jimmy Dorism and trying to pretend like Trump represents a break from the establishment. He is the establishment. He picked more billionaires and Wall Street executives for his administration than anybody in history. He's already packed his administration with like 7 or 8 neocon warmongers. He's already done it. He already did it. He picked Marco Rubio for Secretary of State. Fox News really said uniparty. Oh my God, I'm going to lose it. I'm going to become the Joker. These guys are status quo establishment enforcers, and they're posturing like they're anti-establishment. God, look at the impact that fake independent media has now had on mainstream media. They're sounding just like the idiots in fake independent media. They're copying the aesthetic of being anti-establishment while supporting the most pro-establishment candidate in American history. Oh, my God.
United against Donald Trump, who was against war. So I think that was on the ballot. I think war was on the ballot.
Progressive think tanks figured it out.
She just said it. Trump is against war. Donald Trump, when he was president, increased drone strikes by 432%. People call Obama the drone president because he did a lot of drone strikes, and by the way, it killed 90% the wrong people. So that was a massive talking point on the left against Obama his entire time in office and after he was in office. And the left was correct about that. Trump did way more drone strikes than Barack Obama. 432% increase in drone strikes. And by the way, we only have the data for Trump's first 2 years because he got rid of the mandatory disclosure of how many drone strikes are happening. So in just 2 years, he did 2,243 drone strikes. Trump kept us in Iraq. He kept us in Afghanistan. When he was president, there was a 330% increase in civilian deaths in Afghanistan. He bombed Syria twice. He bombed Somalia. He openly said we're occupying a third of Syria to take the oil. We're going to take the oil. Openly talking about naked imperial ambitions. He increased the Pentagon budget every single year. He let Israel illegally annex the Golan Heights, which is Syrian territory. This time around, he took $100 million from Miriam Adelson, and in return for that, he's letting Israel annex the entire West Bank. So, by the way, look for a Gaza 2.0 to come in the West Bank. It's coming. Trump assassinated Soleimani, who's a top Iranian commander, illegally. He was on the ground fighting ISIS. We acted as the de facto air force for ISIS and killed this guy. He tried to coup Venezuela. He ripped up the Iran agreement. He defended Saudi Arabia and vetoed a bill that cut off weapons to them because they were committing a genocide in Yemen. And some senators spoke up and said, you know what, we shouldn't be arming a genocide. Trump vetoed that bill to support Saudi Arabia because Saudi Arabia sends him a bunch of money and has a bunch of business deals with him. He talks about war with Mexico in his second term. He dropped the Moab on Afghanistan. That's the mother of all bombs. It's the biggest bomb that we have. He did the first military raid as president. It killed a young American girl. He signed a pro-torture executive order. He pardoned Blackwater war criminals. He is deeply, deeply pro-war. And look, you got to give Trump credit for one thing. He is the branding master. The master. And that's what you're witnessing here. He says the words enough. I'm against the stupid wars. I'm against the stupid wars. And all these idiots, they go right with. They don't look at his record. They don't look at what he actually says he's going to do in a second term because he says the words, I'm anti-war. And they go, okay, brain off, he's anti-war. God, I can't stand these people. I mean, I don't want to be hyperbolic about it, but this is one of the only places you're going to get the truth. I mean, I used to be so hopeful about all of independent media. Now I'm not. Now I see they're fake independent media. They're a bunch of idiots. They're a bunch of audience-captured freaks. They have the same malincentives as they do in mainstream media where they're listening to their advertisers and stuff. There's groupthink, all sorts of problems, contrarianism, all sorts of problems. This is one of the only places you're going to get the truth. And it's a goddamn shame. Stuff like this I can't even... It's just so wrong from beginning to end. They're just lying and humiliating themselves for Trump over and over. And this is like standard operating procedure. And this is a commonly held opinion. And almost nobody's pushing back. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.